What's up guys, Kyle here, and today we've got a review of the Moto X Pure Edition by Motorola. Alright, now to start off my review, I'm going to give you guys my list of pros, cons, and somewhere in between features. Alright, let's start off with the pros. This phone has a 5.7 inch 2K display with an IPS technology. This phone is bright, beautiful, and you don't even have to turn up the brightness to get it to look good. YouTube videos look amazing at even half brightness. I mean, you're never going to find an opportunity to turn this phone up to full brightness. But this phone does get a mark against it for being IPS rather than AMOLED, which Motorola has used in the past, because previous Moto X variants have had the always-on display, which this one has as well. But previous Moto X's have had an AMOLED display where it doesn't take a hit to the battery as much because it doesn't have to light those other pixels of the display when it does the always-on feature. But with being IPS, it has to light that whole display in order to do the always-on function. Alright, next the sound. This phone has two front-firing stereo speakers. And what makes this a pro is not the fact that they're front-firing, because there's other phones and devices that have two front-firing speakers. And yeah, this is loud, but this phone is crisp. When you're watching YouTube videos, the sound sounds amazing at half volume. Music sounds amazing. Alright, next are aesthetics. This phone looks amazing. I mean, the two side bezels are extremely small. Even the top and bottom, forehead and chin, aren't even that big. And the one I got, the black silicon, feels amazing. It's a matte finish. And just the back and all around the phone looks like a premium phone. Doesn't look like it's a $400 phone. And another pro is Motorola's ability to harness the Snapdragon 800 series dormant cores for the double chop to turn on flashlight, the double twist to open up the camera viewfinder, and the always-on Hello Moto voice command. And all these features have been extremely reliable. I've only had the Hello Moto command fail maybe once out of 20 times, and the double twist to turn on the camera hasn't failed me once. And that's a really cool feature, to have a reliable function like that that doesn't fail. Alright, now for cons. Those two front-firing speakers, they protrude from the display about 1/4 inch. Also, the front flash protrudes as well. And if you don't keep a screen protector on this, you're going to notice that giant lip on the top, bottom, and around the flash. And as I mentioned in my unboxing video, the bottom left and right corners have an extremely small thickness, about half the thickness of the thickest part of the phone, which in my opinion makes it a hard to hold phone. If you hold it properly with your finger on the dimple, it feels great. But in actual use, when you're trying to text or you're trying to use the phone in doing normal things, those two corners that are so thin make it really hard to hold, and throughout the 7 days that I've used it, it becomes really apparent. Alright, and this isn't really a con, but the camera on here is a 21 megapixel camera, and Motorola calls this a best-in-class camera. I don't know what class they're talking about, especially now with the Note 5 out. I'm imagining they're talking about the 5.7 inch display class. Now, this camera can get some good pictures, but it has no optical image stabilization, so you need the correct lighting and you need to stabilize your hand, and you'll get some detailed pictures, which you can't help but get with a 21 megapixel camera. But in any other situation, this camera gets outperformed by any other phone of the current generation. And Motorola's camera app definitely works against itself. All the options are in a scrolling wheel that you have to scroll to find the correct option. And that's kind of the disguise of this 5.7 inch extremely bright display. Everything in the viewfinder looks super bright and super amazing, but when you take it off that and look at it anywhere, you're just going to see a high megapixel photo. It's not really bright, colors are really neutral. Alright, now for notable features, this phone has a Snapdragon 808 64-bit hexa-core processor with 3 gigs of RAM and a 3000 milliamp hour battery. And that battery is not a pro nor a con. I mean, I wish it was bigger. This phone gets me through a full day, 4 hours or a little bit above of screen on time when you turn down the brightness. Alright, now I had someone ask me about overheating issues with the processor. Now, this is a Snapdragon 808, not the 810. The 810 had, overheating issues, it being clocked so high, and the 808 is a hexacore and isn't clocked at those high speeds. Nonetheless, I've played Unkilled and some Dead Trigger, and I have not had any overheating issues. The phone did get hot, and while it was the hottest that I've noticed, which wasn't hotter than any other phone gaming, I didn't notice any slowdown during those games. Other things to note, I was watching YouTube videos, and randomly throughout, a 4-minute video, every minute or so I'd have a skipped frame. It's kind of hard to explain, but it was like a flashback from a previous frame cut in. I was watching a normal 1080p video. There was nothing wrong with the video. I watched it on my other phone. It's not the video's fault, but I've never actually seen that happen before. Another thing that I wanted to mention, it's not necessarily a con, because it was happening inconsistently. With the Snapdragon 808, which I presume is the culprit, when I first got the phone, I had no stuttering whatsoever. It was amazingly fast. Installed all my apps, I had no problems. The second day, killing apps, doing certain random chores, I would notice some strange pauses and strange delays. It would run fluid, no problems, and then I would get a strange stop, and then it would go again. But every other subsequent day, I didn't get much of that. I would get it here and there, but I would just cop that up to the Android operating system. So in conclusion, is this phone a good buy? Is this phone worth your $400? And the short answer is yes. The long answer is I don't know. Motorola has a good track record of improving their camera through software updates, though not in a major way. And I feel like all the other issues with the phone could be fixed with the software update. Maybe not the battery life, and maybe not the camera so much. But if you got $400 to spend on a current gen smartphone, not $1 more, I'd say this is a pretty good bet. If you want a current gen smartphone, but you're looking to spend a little bit beyond that, I'd say you could look elsewhere. Alright, well that's about everything there is worth mentioning on the Moto X Pure Edition. Leave me a comment below if you think there's anything that I left out, or anything I did wrong, or anything you want to argue with me on. Drop a like if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it, and thanks guys, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.